Hello and welcome back to another episode of Unmissed Connections. We're really excited because we have Chris Ekman in the studio, the founder of Switchboard Learning, a premier Bridge Group partner as well. You've been training sales development representatives, business development representatives for years, and we're really excited because today we're going to be talking in a three-part series called Finding the Blood, where we're going to talk about prospecting, researching, what you should be saying, when you should be saying it, and how you find those people to say it. So Chris, thank you so much for coming in, and would you mind sharing just with the audience what it is you actually do and what you train in these sessions you put together?
Yeah, absolutely. So my former life, I ran global inside sales teams for teams, and a few years back, I developed a playbook that teaches millennials and other prospectors how to find the blood through prospecting by thinking outside the box, and we'll go into all that fun stuff. But
Yeah,
it is a training program that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, you came in, you trained our team, I believe a couple months ago. It was it's still memorable. People keep these on their desks still, which is great. It was a fantastic training program. What we want to talk about in this first section is how do you prepare for that prospecting? What are your recommendations for getting ready to prospect? You don't just pick up the phone and call and you hope you get the right person or expect to. I mean, the program is Finding the Blood. What does Finding the Blood actually mean?
Yeah.
You know?
So one thing to think about when we're prospecting, right?
Yeah.
And one thing that you need to on every single call have in the back of your mind is if they're not using you, they're doing it wrong, all right? So it's our job, it's our job on the phone to find their blood, find out where they're doing it wrong, get them to talk about it, lead the witness, all that fun stuff, right?
Yeah.
Put some fear, uncertainty, and doubt in them, and just get them to want to learn more. That is our job on our first call as a prospector.
Sure, yeah.
Right, and then it's to book the meeting and get it over a sales rep to do what they do and sell the value,
No,
right?
true, yeah.
So think about it like a mosquito, right?
No one likes mosquitoes.
Nobody likes mosquitoes, but think about a mosquito.
Yeah.
Their job is to find the blood.
That's true.
If they don't find the blood, they die.
Yep.
If we don't find the blood within a prospect, we don't book meetings, which means we don't make money, or which is one of the reasons we're all here, right?
Exactly. I mean, you need to be profitable at some
So
point.
think about that one mosquito.
Exactly.
But then you got to think about a mosquito again. If a mosquito stays on too long, what happens?
You get hit. You're done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't overqualify. 3 things happen if you qualify. Overqualify, well, you'll turn into that mosquito. But look, you'll scare the prospect away because you might say the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
You answer all of their questions, they have no reason to then speak to an AE.
Valid point. Yep.
Number 3, you're taking valuable rapport building time away from your AE.
What are your best practices for figuring out and preparing before you even pick up that phone call and reach out?
Right, so there's a lot of times where if we're having to make $100 a day, people are just randomly calling and then they're setting meetings with the total wrong prospect,
Yeah.
right? So first off, you have to know the type of persona that you are calling, right? And then also you gotta know your target company. So at least you got those 2 notches right off the bat. So when you get them on the phone, which is the hardest part of prospecting, getting them on the phone, and you hear me yell it and preach it a lot, you've got to do your research, right? You've got to go into ZoomInfo, other contact databases. You've got to put that time in. I know we'll go over research sort of later and how much time you should spend and the percentages that you're going to get people on the phone. But ZoomInfo, contact databases, build out your list, put it in Salesforce, HubSpot, whatever you've got, CRM, and then focus on that. So that way you have targeted messages to the right personas at the right target company.
Easier said than done, trying to figure out what the right content is, when you're supposed to send it. We're actually going to get into the actual types of contents a little later in these episodes here, which you can click around here to find the other episodes. But at that point then, figuring out what are the best times, how do you figure out when you should be reaching out to these prospects?
Yeah, so you can look at all the research like companies like Inside Sales has done. In the world of outbounding, you have to do what works best for you and the type of personas and companies you're calling. So what I always recommend is a sweet spot sheet, right? Which I'll be happy to send anybody who needs it. But track every dial you make for 3 to 4 weeks and what happens on that. Was it just a dial? Was there a meeting booked? Did you have a conversation, right? So then what you start to see, if you start to see that you're booking meetings at Friday at 3 o'clock, don't go take a long lunch and have a beer on Friday. Build out a list and start dialing it too, because you're more likely to book meetings because it's based off of what your sweet spot is.
We'll actually link to that sheet down below here in the description so you can actually go ahead and have access to that as well. We recommend you actually start tracking what your success rates are with those calls. Once you've actually had an opportunity to find those sweet spots and focus those call times at those moments, what do you do to get them on the phone? I mean, people don't answer. That's just it. People don't answer their phones. What do you do to actually get
we live in a world of caller ID now, right? And if you don't see a number that you recognize, You just let it ring or you send it straight to voicemail.
I don't answer
Right.
calls I recognize.
So it's called the double tap method, right? There's a lot of people out there that will tell you how to do this wrong. I'll tell you how to do it right now. Call once. If you get their voicemail, hang up. Don't leave a voicemail, right? That's your excuse to call back.
Yep, no bell.
So you call right back, right?
Yeah.
If and when they answer, you say, hey, I'm so sorry to call you back to back here. I was meaning to leave you a voicemail, but while I have you, then we'll go into an intro, which we'll talk about here in the next session.
Not bad,
But
yeah.
don't leave a voicemail on the first one. You can leave it on the second one if they don't answer. That's fine. But you got to have a reason to call back. What you can't do is leave a voicemail on the first one and you call right back.
It's kinda-
What's your excuse? You're kind of like, I gotcha.
Like, sorry, I hit
Boom.
redial, and this was just a tactic. At that
Right,
point. Yeah. and
right,
You get put
right.
on the
Then they're
spot.
upset.
Yeah. Now they're not happy about talking to you. Like,
Exactly.
you left a voicemail. What do you want now?
Absolutely.
So, talking about the best times to reach out, how you should be reaching out. Before you reach out, you need to do some research. You need to know who you're reaching out to.
Right.
What do you recommend? How much time do you spend? Where do you find the data you're looking to use when you're actually researching that prospect to reach out to?
So like we mentioned earlier, right? You've got to know the type of persona you're going to go after. But once you get that list, you don't need to research prior to every call.
Yeah.
Every training I go into, I ask the group, individuals, how much time are you spending researching prior to a call? And you already have the list. 15 minutes, they're going through, looking up all this information about a particular prospect. Well, look, here's the
Before
deal.
every call.
Before every call.
Yeah.
If you're making 80, 85 dials in a day,
Yeah. It's a lot of time to be spending
that's
researching.
one call
Yeah.
every 6 point something minutes, right? Then if you use, the double tap technique, that's one contact every 14 minutes. At the end of the day, you're gonna get about 4 people on the phone, which means if you're going and doing all of that research,
There's a lot
you're
of-
never gonna make that many dials, which means you're going to get less conversations.
Yeah.
That's one conversation basically every 2 hours. And no matter where I go, those percentages line up pretty much identical every single time. So with that, you've got to also think our job is prospecting, right? We're not running a full-on discovery call. All of that research will be done by your sales rep prior to their discovery call.
Sure.
Some of the time that people sort of hide behind research
Yeah.
is, well, sometimes hiding, but also they want to have something to talk about on the phone. People hide behind research and try to find all that to give them a reason to reach out.
I get that. You don't want to be like, hey, I'm just here to sell to you, even though they already know when they pick up the phone that you're going to be selling
Right.
to them. The last thing you want to do is spend 5 or 6 minutes talking about, oh yes, I went bowling last weekend.
Right. Exactly.
That I understand. What are we doing on the phone? What are you going to do to help me? Is it really going to help? Let's see where this is going.
Right.
So on top of that, you've got a ridiculously hilarious mug here. You got to tell me what this is coming from, because I picked this up just because I wanted to be obnoxious, and I thought it just turned into a hilarious thing on the show. What is this?
Can you see it here?
Yeah.
All right, so let me put that up there. All right, so that is my son with what was clown makeup on from a local kind of fun place, has like the bumper boats, the mini golf, all of that. There was a company outing a few years back.
Yeah.
And he was looking forward to it all day. We get there, it starts torrential downpouring.
Yep.
My son gets his face painted, comes back up 30 minutes later with an ice cream cone.
Yeah.
And to get the ice cream, he had to have gone in the rain. So he comes back, and all of this clown makeup is just dripping all on him, all on his shirt, and he's
poor guy.
standing there with an ice cream cone. It was the saddest, but also the funniest scene I've ever seen. So I had to take a picture, and I've had to just remember it every time I take a sip of coffee, because just think about a sad child standing there with an ice cream cone, just dripping down clown.
I'm just picturing as he gets older.
Oh, it was amazing.
You keep on talking to him, and that's all you drink out of it.
Right.
Staring at his own face. So this was episode 1 of our 3-part series. Episode 2, we're going to talk about getting to those gatekeepers and what to say when they're on the phone. Chris, thank you for joining. We're not really going anywhere, so click now and start the next episode.